panel discussion is going to focus on the topic that has been on our mind for the last 8 weeks, and that is how are we dealing with a new world. We put it in the title as if the trading room is now in the living room. What does this mean for collaboration, IT security and compliance? The bombshell that was dropped on the world in the form of COVID-19 has caused levels of disruptions far beyond anything we have experienced thus far in the financial information services industry. Our ways of working are currently undergoing tremendous change, and it remains yet to be seen how and to what extent our professional lives will settle on a new normal. Is working from home the new normal? Early experiences with internet-based collaboration tools suggest that it just may work. But are we truly equipped for this from a technological, operational, and regulatory point of view? What solutions can vendors, regulatory bodies, and end-user firms offer? So with me today are 4 distinguished gentlemen who will discuss with me the topic. But first off, I would like to ask them to introduce themselves, and maybe I can start asking Colin Ritchie to do that first.
Okay, good afternoon, folks. My name is Colin Ritchie. I am the Service and Strategy Manager at Aberdeen Standard Investments based in Edinburgh, Scotland. I've been here now for 10 years. My background, I started life as a developer in IT back in the days of languages such as COBOL and Ada, for anyone that can remember them. Worked in a few investment management companies now over the years, running different IT and operations teams to support the business. At ASI, my team manage all areas relating to provision of, I guess, what we brand the investment toolkit. So applications and data providers such as Bloomberg, FactSet, S&P, MSCI, and FTSE, and Morningstar. Other parts of the team look after the commercials and the budget side, and my guys are focused on the service and strategy elements. I guess in its simplest form, I see my team as being probably matchmakers, because we're working closely with both the vendors, understanding what their current proposition is and what they're developing, so get sight of their roadmap, and obviously working closely with all areas of our business, understanding what their long-term strategic requirements are and current as well, and then really working with all parties to try and devise and implement the strategy that delivers on these. We're working with a really diverse set of clients, from front office staff to performance measurement teams to RFP teams to our data scientists as well. So all makes it all challenging, interesting, and different in every way and every single day. That's me.
Excellent. Many thanks, Colin. Janos?
Yes, I can. My name is Janos Bohnke. I'm Director and Global Head of Market Data at Allianz Global Investors. I have more than 25 years experience of market data. My co-responsible alongside market data are also in the area of travel policy and professional services. So part of my current work is also like the Concur travel tool we've rolled out globally now. And also part is also outtasking of operational procurement activities in the area of market data. And we have outsourced all the travel support, and we have also outsourced the onboarding of professional services consultants. So I'm now working remotely for almost 10 weeks now. And what particularly interests me in these times is when people come back to the office. I guess we will never see the same amount of people. So how will we spend the time in the office with other people and interaction?
Very good. Thank you, Janos. Kirsten?
Hi, it's Kirsten Winters. I head product for MarketServe. We're a derivative trade processing service used by the industry, which is part of IHS Markit. Many of you will know IHS Markit as a data provider in financial services, but actually overall we're an information company operating across energy, transport and financial services. And we leverage technology and data science to provide insights and software solutions across these 3 sectors. And we bring capabilities, particularly in financial services, from front to back office from trade ideas, trade processing, corporate actions, and transaction reporting. And very much look forward to discussing the adaptations we've made to COVID-19 during this panel. Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Kirsten. And then finally, Morten.
Hello, I'm Morten Linderman. I'm the CIO and co-founder of Infront. Infront is actually that's the name of the combined company, VWD or VWD and Infront. VWD, probably pretty much in the German space, so I don't need to introduce us further.
Very good. So that means that we have a data integrator, which Infront ultimately probably is, a data originator in the form of IHS Markit. We have two buy-side firms. One is more on the insurance side, owned by Allianz. And then, of course, Aberdeen Standard, which is a big institutional asset manager. Okay, well, it was already said that about 8-9 weeks ago, it struck on everyone that we had to work from home. The lockdown was announced. Almost worldwide, countries had a different pattern in terms of asking people to work from home, but ultimately the story was the same for all of us. Can I just ask one or two of you, how did that go? This almost overnight experience of having to organize for people to work from home. Colin, what happened at Aberdeen Standard?
So like everybody, global company, this started to hit us in Asia before anywhere else. So we were really supporting the guys out there. And to be honest, we're almost using what was going out there as a bit of a test case for how we would act and implement things in the UK and in Europe and the US. Primarily supporting the teams in Asia. So key things from my perspective, as I said, vendors such as Bloomberg, we are key to us and key to what we look after. So we were implementing services such as Bloomberg's more up-to-date disaster recovery service, which the key thing for me was allowing our shared Bloomberg terminal users to get access from home, which is never necessarily the case from the normal sort of DR service. So that was a big thing for there. When it came over towards the UK and Europe, through our business continuity teams, there was a big kind of COVID war room, for want of a better term, stood up, which was managed by our COO to mobilise thousands of people to work from home, which we have managed to do. I think initial key challenges in that were simply kit and hardware. So taking our dealers, for example, very attached to Bloomberg keyboards and multiple terminals, and really we had to set that up physically at their houses. And then for people like myself and my teams, simple sounding things such as laptops, not everybody had access to that. We're thankful that we are very much virtual desktop based, which helps us massively. I know peers at other companies who are very physical desktop based had even more so a struggle to get people working from home. So that helped us greatly. Once we managed to kind of get people the kit, even physically getting that to them was troublesome. Our CEO was actually out delivering some from the back of his car to different people's houses along the way. We had to engage, obviously, from a dealing and front office perspective with our internal compliance team, obviously with the FCA as well, around the impact of regulations such as MiFID II. So that was all carried out by our kind of project team around this as well. The collaboration part has been massive. Obviously, it's the same for everybody. Losing that impromptu ability for face-to-face conversations is quite tough. So I had to look at the existing tools we had. So the Polycom and WebEx facilities, Bloomberg Chat. But our company had always planned to, in this year, roll out Microsoft Teams wider or across the entire organisation. So that bit of work was expedited, and we have that now. And it's early stages, but it's working well across the company. From our traders' perspective, we've got a huge percentage of SDP trading, so through FIX, so not as big a deal having them working from home with that going on. And I think one of our biggest areas of concern was some of our kind of products, our overarching wrap products were involved, a lot of telephony sales from our guys. That was the hardest part, to get their mobile and recorded phone lines and things like that home as well. So they were the ones of most concern. We actually still had them split, some of them in the office and some of them working in our disaster recovery sites. So very tough. And for me, the kind of ask of me was to try and help facilitate these guys with no net new budget spend as well. So always that cross hanging over our head too.
Yeah, thanks, Colin. Kirsten, how did it go with a vendor like IHS Markit, those first chaotic days, couple of weeks?
Yes, so I think very similar to Colin in some ways. I think, it's important to note, we're kind of a global business, similar to many others here. 16,000 colleagues scattered across, 100 different offices around the world. I think one of the things we were very lucky in some ways was we rolled out Teams probably 18 months ago. And it's very rare within our firm to have a single team co-located working on something. So people BAU day to day are already used to collaborating using these technologies just from the office. We've also, rolled out mobile quite heavily, particularly with bring your own device. And so a lot of the services, that are software as a service, people can access that way too. So, when early days it hit in China and then Japan and Singapore, our crisis management team looked at what we had. And while we did have a number of BCP sites, actually we didn't need them. Ultimately, we don't have, traders and things like other firms. So ultimately we just managed to convert the whole firm globally to work from home pretty much seamlessly. And I think the only thing you can't solve for is individual circumstances. And I think, we've clearly got some colleagues who it's a lot more difficult for than others. And it's around flexibility and making sure that the teams are flexible, adaptable, and ultimately can focus on delivering good customer service, recognizing that not every colleague is capable of a 8 till 6 or a 9 till 5 at this point in time. And people are working odd hours and people are working, around what they can do. But from a technology standpoint, I think we were very lucky in that we had all the tools in place and people were actively already using them. From a services standpoint, we've got a mix from very legacy technology to, most of our newer things are software as a service. I think that all held up extremely well, and we certainly had a lot of feedback from customers that had gone well. I think the challenge really is with all that technology we've got out there now, we've increased, and every firm's done this, we've increased the cyber attack service hugely. Because we've got all these extra devices all connecting remotely. And ultimately, we've been very focused on that as of our customers. And I think, from a cyber and a vendor due diligence side of things, we used our KYCP platform to roll out due diligence on our own vendors, but also for our customers to use that to do due diligence on their vendors, both in terms of BCP preparedness around COVID-19, but also particularly in the cyber context and what people are doing to make sure that they're best in breed in terms of protecting against that under these circumstances, because it does undoubtedly create additional opportunities.
Yep, right. Thank you. So now we are where we are, 8-9 weeks in. The dust has settled down in a number of ways, one could say. So let's talk a bit more about where we are and what lessons have been learned. We went through the chaos of the first couple of weeks, but now there's a new sort of reality sinking in. What are the lessons learned from that from a business point of view? Let's ask both, again, an end user firm and a vendor. So let's start with the end user firm. Janos, have you had to sort of change ways, asking deliberately at very high level, but sort of what did you find yourself doing to adapt to the new situation?
So most important, what we see is communication with employees and also relationship building. Because people sitting all day long in front of the desk and a monitor, and what most missing is the office atmosphere. So what we have established, for example, with communication is we call this a virtual desk. So imagine for a second, I think you only see people in meeting in a very structured environments. It's only, let's say, information channel. But how do you get the feel being in the office? And the feedback from my staff was, okay, they like doing virtual working, but what's also really missing is after 8, 9, 10 weeks is the office atmosphere, like being together. And but I really do not see that we will come into the office the next 2 to 3 months. So what's the reason we started virtual office? That means we have always a channel open. Imagine I'm doing my work, working on my emails, but I have the whole team available. So anybody who wants to join can constantly can join. The screen is open with Microsoft Teams. And in the beginning, it feels a little bit strange, but by the time you got in the second day, it started to become very natural. So we can talk with each other, we can make jokes, more work can be done, so we are more productive, but also lessons learned. So we managed to keep that office spirit alive. And so no people on a Monday, they are all keen to see the other colleagues. So I think the outcome is the productivity increased, and because the people are more focused on the work, there are less interruption by drop-ins that we see. And also the decision making, what I can see now is more faster. So because you have to, in the meeting you can talk a lot, but in a video conference you have to be more clearer, and that's the reason it's more effective, efficient, and that's for us the lessons learned. But of course there are also challenges with the work-life balance and what we see.
Yeah, absolutely. Morten, you were presumably having to deal with both sort of internal people issues or adaptations, but also you were expected by your clients to adapt towards their needs. Do you think you can describe a bit both sides, both the internal adaptation as well as what you had to do to make sure that your clients would continue to get a good service?
Yeah, fortunately, I would say everyone has been very lucky that this happened now and not 10 years ago or 15 years ago, because basically most of us are working with the office tools in the cloud. It's not that many things that is on premise anymore. No one of us has got data centers in the office, all these things. So in a way, we got very lucky. Help teams or support teams, they have been online. They've been using that for a while. I think one of the biggest challenges, no matter what, has been to help clients set up even though we have a very cloud-based solution, we have had to make some adaptation and help clients to fix their internal communication. Because a lot of clients were not used to working from the home office, and what we saw is that their internal cybersecurity very often was a bit strict, to a lesser extent than a lot of other I know what, but still we need to help some clients doing it. When it comes to the adaptation, I mean internally in the organization, it's like it's described here, the informal contact, which is very important. It's hard to have when you're sitting at home. But one of the other challenges there is obviously that you are not alone. People are sitting there at home, kindergarten's closed, schools are closed, and it's more than one time my 3-year-old daughter has basically crashed meeting and been sitting on my lap and trying to get daddy's attention. So that has been an interesting part of it. And also another challenge is that the work time suddenly, for a lot of people, they start early, they get these interruptions with their family and things like that. So the work time takes a lot of it. Extends through the afternoon and evening, and which has been hard for a lot of people to manage properly. So the social aspect, I think, is actually more difficult to handle here than the technological, regulatory, and things, because
operational.
And operational as well, because that's something that we've been used to. We've been running that kind of business for more than 15 years. So we're used to this. But it's actually the human aspect that we need to focus a bit more on. And what we have done, and I really have, our HR has been really good. We are having virtual Friday beers. And that's particularly good because we are right now in the operational merging two big companies in front of Aberdeen. And for me as a manager, it's been a tremendous opportunity to meet people and talk with people informally that I haven't been able to talk with before, and sit there for an hour, have a beer, just chat on the Teams, and actually have some fun with them.
Yep. Very good. Yes, I can subscribe to that. At TRG Screen, we also have these virtual Friday afternoon drinks, even with virtual pub quizzes, which sometimes get very loud and noisy, but that's another topic. Going back to the business side of all of this, I mean, we were all scrambling to get organized. As vendor firms, you had to make sure that clients were, served with the right solutions. From what we can see from our perspective at TRG Screen is that many firms went to purchase a lot of stuff, because it had to happen. How is that going to look going forward from a business point of view, Colin, to start with? At some point, do you think you will have to do some kind of cleaning up again because you have to rebalance what people have been getting and have been given access to? Do you have some thoughts on that already?
Yeah. I think from the end user's perspective and the tools that they need, again, I think I touched on it earlier, the combination of us, certainly from our own perspective, on the virtual desktops, and again, it was probably luck more than anything. I was already in the process of implementing, the new solution just prior to kind of COVID kicking off. So those were always kind of baked in as costs for us certainly as well. So in general, there other hardware costs aside, laptops, things like that as well. We've not increased for new services or new accesses, but I think obviously the focus on this will push us in there's two routes. One is obviously a significant attempt to further reduce costs when things settle down a bit, or even actually starting now. And where the company goes in terms of product development to get our share price as well. So we're already seeing quite a huge demand from our scientists to kind of investigate new products, and so perhaps not a massive spend, which is good, on facilitating access to these third-party services and data providers on a working from home environment. I'm saying that until some of the perhaps index data providers come along and start needing us to license every single person's house as a different location for use of data. But hopefully not. But yeah, well, money spinners all round. But so that's our main focus is probably more of the requests from some of our data scientists now who are looking to kind of diversify the product set.
Yeah. Janos, do you see some cleaning up to be done as well after this has settled down more, or do you think do you feel pretty good about the sort of the balance that you have been able to strike in terms of providing people with services and equipment?
So Allianz has the rule that if you're working from home, for example, you can buy a monitor or a laptop, and I think the new normal will be working from home. So what means people will still use this monitor and keyboard and mouse or whatever you have bought in the past, will also use it for the future. But because I will not see that the people will come back to the office again, so I need an infrastructure at home. You have seen the announcement from Twitter that all employees will work from home forever. So I think that will be the new normal. We will see less people in the office because I can check my emails even better from home than in the office. I think the only reason for me to go into the office would be to meet new people, to do some networking. That means there's a change in my working pattern. What I see with the vendors, I think they are very flexible, and they offer free trials. They are also open to postpone renewals. We have some cases where the renewal was 1st of April, and we said, sorry, we cannot, because of this uncertainty, it's difficult for us to, what is the right demand? We say, okay, that's not an issue. Let's renew it for the same condition for another 3 months, and then let's sit together in July or August. And right. we saw us a lot, but also our preferred suppliers seen, okay, some are reduced the fees because of the current situation. And I think that's important if you have established a relationship. You cannot start a relationship now. We have established this many years ago with our preferred partners. We have lunch date, we have open days. I think that's most important this time, relationship. It's not about processes. Without relationship, you will not get this flexibility what we see with our preferred partners now.
Yeah, absolutely. Kirsten, what have you done in the meantime to serve your clients differently? Do you think you have given them all the solutions that they needed, and do you think they will stick, or do you have to reinvent some of your license models, for instance? How do you see that?
Yes, I think clients is a key aspect. I think there's really three aspects. There's customers, and that's really around continuing to deal with customers, continuing to interface with customers, continuing to meet their needs, continuing to understand what it is they need. The second is people, right? We need to make sure that our people are capable of performing at the level they're doing for the long term. And that means, addressing those work-life balance issues. I think it's clear that everybody's working longer. Everything bleeds into one, and people are there, not 24/7, but certainly, way beyond a normal working day. And just making sure they've got the right equipment and setup for the longer term, as it looks like it will be longer that we're working in these conditions. And then third is products. And I think, as I said earlier, we've moved a lot to software as a service, different delivery mechanisms for data. And you'll see a continued push to do that now and into the future. And I think the other side is things like digital onboarding. Anybody who's doing manual processes or sending paper, people are having to adapt to deal with that, and that will be the future. And we launched a product recently, Onboarding Accelerator, which is around digitizing that process. And I think things like that and other competing products, clearly will have a place for the long term, because people will look at those inefficient processes and wonder why they're ever doing them in the first place. I think other areas where customers' needs change. We've got an economic and country risk product. Widely used, but ultimately people want different metrics, right? They want COVID-related metrics, industries, countries, how they're being impacted, and getting that data. So, you have to adapt those existing products almost real time as the situation changes to meet that customer demand. And I think the final area is property, and what is your portfolio of real estate offices going to look like in the future? And ultimately, I think Twitter came out of that thing, but ultimately I think every firm is looking at that and saying, what is the right size for the future? Because clearly we've demonstrated as an industry globally that we can work from home. Clearly there needs to be an element of office-based, but what is the right size for the future? And I think that is something every firm will focus on.
Yep. I'm actually now having a look at the questions that have come in, and well, it's actually fits in with what we had in our agenda as well to discuss as the last point, and that is looking forward, our views on how this will last or not. So what are your mid to long-term plans on getting people back in the office? Or will you allow permanent working from home, Morten?
Well, it's kind of dependent on local rules. the regulations in the various countries, because some countries you can do it and other you can't. For instance, during the last months, or since kind of it started, we've had people in the offices in a lot of countries. But the thing is, they have had so much space. There's so much social distancing, or they take the bike or the car to the work, and the workspace. Other people has been saying that I need a day off from the kids, so I need to go to the office to focus a bit.
Right.
I think it's going to be a mix. And the reason why I'm saying that is to work from home is not suited for everyone. To exchange ideas is very often better at a whiteboard than it is during a phone conference. And some people, they are not getting efficient at all in their home office, and other people are getting more efficient. So I think we are going to see this mixed, because what we are seeing in the Scandi countries, what I've seen there, that Sweden, for instance, they haven't really locked down. So there we've had a lot of the staff in the office all the time. Basically the journalists, because we have a large number of journalists there, and they are very much, their way of working is like a trading desk. So it has been hard for them to adapt with all of them being at home. So we had kind of an A and B team. And people in general, they are so eager to get back to the office. So when they opened up in Norway and the kindergartens started to work, actually you saw a bit more like the start of traffic jams going into Oslo again. So I think people are actually missing it.
Yeah. Sounds very consistent with what we see and hear in other countries. It's 20 minutes past the hour. That means that I do have to wrap up now. I haven't seen any more questions come through. And also keeping an eye on my other screen here. All right, that is a good question. That is actually a good question. It somehow was already addressed by you gentlemen, but what will be the impact in your customer relations in the future, especially if the virus would become the new normal and business travel will remain restricted? What does it mean, for instance, for sales? You all have probably colleagues in a sales-y kind of environment. How is this relationship management thing going to work? Who wants to go first on that?
I think, if I may say, it's depending on the person. Actually, it's depending on both persons. If some people are very much relationship builders when meeting people, looking them in the eyes and talking with them, and those people will have a problem going forward. Other people are going to be more adaptable into this. But we keep in mind one thing: human trust is of essence, that people actually look at each other, look at the mimics in the face, look at their physical appearance. So trust is going to be the one thing that is going to be very, very difficult to build, I think, virtual. At least for my generation, it might be easier for the younger generation. But the problem comes there when you go virtual, when you go digital. Imposing someone is getting easier and easier in the virtual world. So I think we're going to have, even though you have a generation that actually trusts people virtually and digitally, you will see a reverse going into this human contact, because there will be a distrust in the digital media as well, unless we are able to solve these things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's...
Colin? Yeah.
Yes. So what I will see is, because we will be open for working from home, so it's difficult then for a sales like Markit or Infront to come to the office, because maybe most of the colleagues are working from home. That means you have to find another way of communications, and I think the collaboration tools are are getting better and better. You have, I see it now with Microsoft Teams that we rolled out. There's so many functionalities, but you can have a whiteboard. I think there's no reason to sit in a room with other colleagues, because in Microsoft Teams to set up a meeting is much faster. And also collaboration, I see it within our sales department. The number of connection with clients have increased in this time, because they are much faster to set up a meeting instead of planning a travel to a location outside. So whereas the number of connection will increase, and travel, physical travel will not make any sense if your clients are not in the office anymore. So you have to, as they say, you have to find new ways of communication with your client. And so I do not see that the people, of course, in the beginning after lockdown, they are open to say, okay, let's go back. But what I see here at Allianz, for example, we have a step-by-step approach. We will let in 20% of the people, and within my team, 15 people, we ask a question, who want to come into the office? And there was no one who said, yes, I want to come. So it's even with me, I can work more productive from home. Why should I go to the office? The only reason I see is networking and meeting new people. So, and of course we have to learn communication through the video, but after 10 months, I think it's a norm to look into your picture and to communicate with other colleagues.
Yeah. Very good. I really want to wrap up
last
now.
Topic. Yeah. From the economic standpoint and also from the ESG impact, I think it doesn't make sense to travel anymore. I think it doesn't make sense to travel for 60-minute meeting in London, because after the shutdown, I think with this, I think if you go to the airport with a 2-meter distance, you need 3 hours before you on board, and where's the economic impact? And from the ESG, if 20% of the employees in Germany only stay 1 day at home, this will save 1.7 billion kilogram carbon emission. And Allianz is very focused on ESG, and I think most companies are focused now on ESG. Yeah. So I know it already because I'm also responsible for the travel. And we checked internally, okay, what is our new commitment with our travel agencies and Concur, and the feedback was, okay, only distribution will be allowed to travel, and all other employees should use the digitalization, because we spend a lot of millions of dollars now for this digitalization. So that's expectation is now that the employees will use these collaboration tools.
Indeed, excellent. Okay. Gentlemen, I'm going to thank you for your participation in this panel. It was very insightful. Janos Bohnke, Kirsten Winters, Morten Linderman, and Colin Ritchie. Thanks again. I'm also going to now end this DKF virtual online session. For us, this was very exciting. It was a day of agony and ecstasy, right from minute one. Of course, for all of us at the organizing committee, this was an experiment. We believe it went well. We had a few small hiccups, but nothing worthwhile mentioning. During the whole day, we had between 250 and 300 people online all the time. We'll probably have more statistics as we dive in deeper, but we are happy with that. But to the point already made by all of the panelists, this does not replace the social aspect that DKF was also known for and liked for. We really hope that we will have a real DKF again, hopefully in December the 2nd. But we don't know. We have to be honest, we don't know. We will follow the next few weeks and months, as we will all do, to see what is going to be possible. We'd like to think that we will be able to say, see you back in Munich. But for now, we simply have to say, it's May. In May we go away, but let's all remember to be back in December. Thank you.